Hey artists, we're going to go ahead and paint our sweet summertime door hanger, and I already painted my backdrop just to save time. The backdrop is the pink color that you got in your kit and in the bottle, and you're gonna want to squirt paint in small sections. So start at the top and kind of work your way down. If you notice, mine has a little bit of like a not totally polished, finished, full coverage look, because I'm going to go back over it with some yellow and add sort of like a multi-dimensional, I guess you could call it like a distressed look. So I'm not super worried about getting a full coverage on it. If you want to go for a similar look, you can. You can also use a wet wipe over on top of it, and that'll give it sort of a paint wash kind of look. But I'm going to go ahead and start, and I'm going to start with the largest pieces first, because as I work, I want to, paint will start to spread all over my area here. So I'm going to start with the pieces on the largest pieces, so that I'm not trying to keep paint off of them as I go. So I'm painting the banner white, and if this is the first time you're painting with us, when you paint, you want to dip into your paint and dab off the extra. You don't want thick paint, especially for pieces that are scored, because you're gonna fill in those lines and it'll be more difficult to see. The other thing is, on large pieces, you want to, if you want to use a swiping motion, you can. Just make sure you swipe from the inside out. But for when you get close to the edges and for lettering and things like that, you definitely want to use a dabbing motion. That's going to keep a nice clean edge on the sides of your pieces. Some people think that they need to paint the edges, and I don't. Nobody really looks at the edge, and if they do, I think that I'll show you a close-up, but when you use that dabbing motion right along the edge, you can see that it's a pretty uniform line right along here, so that there's not, it doesn't look gloppy, it's not sloppy, it's a nice, clean, uniform line, because I'm just using that quick, even pressure throughout on the whole edge. So I like to use the flat end of my wedges mostly, and just really for time's sake, but I'll use all of it sometimes. It just depends. You can trim the I reuse my wedges, so yours look cleaner, but you can also just take a pair of scissors and trim off the edge if you run out of wedge, or if you want to use the same wedge for multiple colors. Once you're done with one color, you can certainly do that by just trimming off that tip. And don't worry about painting around, obviously, the letters, because these letters are going to go, you're going to paint them and they're going to go right on top. Those score lines are there just to kind of help you, just to guide you, get your pieces in the right spot. So just paint right over them. I do have a paint trick, a tape trick that I will sometimes use when I'm painting small pieces, and it's so that you don't get so much paint on your hands. But basically, if you take a piece of duct tape, or really any kind of tape, and fold it and then lay it into your box. I'm painting on a piece of parchment paper. You can paint inside of your box. And then just stick your pieces to that. Then you don't have to hold it down. Your fingers don't get messy. It's just an easy way, and you can, you know, arrange all of your pieces onto your tape, and makes it much faster. So for example, these pieces, if I had them on a piece of tape, I could just paint them all very quickly. Okay, so for these flowers, again, make sure that you have minimal paint on your sponge, because you don't want to fill in those score lines. Those are not there for guidance, they're there for detail. So you want to make sure that you can see them when you're done. They give the petals some definition, so you don't want to fill those in. So just real light coats, and then if you want additional coverage, certainly go back and you can do another coat, but starting out, just keep it a real light coat. If you do happen to get too much paint in one of those, just take a sharp edge, a push pin, something, and put it in there, and you can just scrape the paint out and it'll look perfect again. Okay, for your picture, this is going to be, I'm going to do sort of an ombre effect on it. So I'm going to start off by painting the handle and the top of it white. Again, don't ever come over your edges. Scraping your wedge or your paintbrush off, basically. You don't want to wipe paint off on your edge. So again, my handle and the top. I'm probably going to go ahead and do the whole thing just for paint the whole thing white, just to make it even, so the coloring is even throughout it, but you don't have to. But this is a good project for learning to do an ombre when it's in an if that sounds intimidating, just keep watching. It is easy and fun, and I use an ombre as much on any project that I can. I think it gives it a really nice touch, increases, you know, just interest in general. So a little bit more white paint. Okay, so like I said, I want my top part to be more white, because we're gonna do an ombre. So I'm gonna do a little bit of a second coat, not super thick. I'm just wanting that to be more of an opaque white. And same thing with my handle. I'm going to get that a little bit brighter white. Okay. All right. Moving on to, I'm going to go ahead and use the yellow. And when you get your pouches, if they look a little bit like that, don't worry, that's normal. I just did this pouch yesterday, and the color separates, and it's okay. Just kind of mix it back up in there, and then this one's already open actually, but you just, when you open these, especially if you're going to want to reuse them, you can tear off the top, but if you're going to want to reuse them, or you're not doing this all in one sitting, just trim off a teeny tiny corner. It also helps you control how much you squirt out. So yeah, just cut off a teeny tiny corner and then squirt it out. Now my yellow is going to be the bottom of the pitcher and working up into an ombre. So again, this is going to be a very opaque yellow down here at the bottom. And when you get to this part with the handle, you're only going to do the bottom one, but just use, get a good amount of paint on just the tip of your wedge, and then just use your swiping motion, line right up against that, use a swiping motion to just fill that in. Very, very easy. Okay. All right, now as we get closer up here to the top where we want our, or it to look like our lemonade filled up to, we're just going to, I'm going to kind of do a line across here, and I'm going to get just a little bit of paint on my wedge. I'm going to dab off, and then I'm just going to work up a little bit in real light dabbing motions. And you can see that starting to kind of lighten up. And I'm going to take it a little bit higher here, and it's going to kind of give the effect of how some of the lemonade would be further back than others in the picture. Just real light, and you just keep doing that until you're happy with it. So I'm going to give it kind of a rounded effect. You know, not just a straight across. Okay. All right, so that's that. Let's see if I can kind of go. And let's go ahead and I'm going to paint this wedge so we can put that together, just in case you get anxious and you're wanting to start to see some of the finished results. So for this wedge, I'm just going to paint the whole thing yellow. And I'm going to come back in with some white. I can use the tip of one of my wedges. And I'm just going to do some swipes to add some dimension to this. Don't want perfection. I think some of the thicker paint gives it a little bit more character. So that's why the wedge is good, because it's going to deposit paint a little bit in these lines when you use that edge. Okay. There we go. And you received 2 pieces of twine. One was wrapped around your, the longer one is what you want to wrap around your pitcher. So I'm going to go ahead and put this together so you can see what it's going to look like. So just kind of find that middle point of your string or your twine. Wrap it around again. Okay, and then string your little wedge that we just painted onto there. And you can tie a knot or a bow, whatever you like. Okay, and then when you assemble this, you're going to, so this piece that you received is strictly to elevate this so that this can stick to your backer. So all you're going to glue is the glue that you received, put it onto this backer, and then stick these 2 together. And I can go ahead and do that. If you use super glue a lot, this is fantastic. love this. On Amazon, Stick Fast is what it's called. I get the thick, and obviously I use a ton of super glue. So you received a little travel size of it. And so for these, all you do is take off this part, travel size, that sounds what it's called, but anyway, you take off this green rim and then twist this on, and that is going to puncture that part and you're good to go. Okay, so I'm going to carefully line this up. On. Okay, and for now I'm going to put something with a little bit of weight on it, let that really stick, and then once we're done, once we're ready to assemble it, I'll peel off the back of that and put it onto my backer. Okay. So to paint your lemons, the nice thing is that this flower is separate, so you don't have to worry about paint, you know, painting around that flower. Just paint the yellow part right over the flower. And to add some detail to these, where these circles are, you can really use anything that has a tip to it. So either the end of a paintbrush or the end of a toothpick, or a Q-tip is another good tool to use. So you just dip something into white and dab it into the circle that you see. For the bigger ones, you can move it around a little bit. You're going to get a nice clean circle. For the smaller ones, be sure you dab off the tip so you don't fill it too much. Or you can just very lightly press, and don't press all the way down, and it'll make a smaller dot for you. Okay, so there's that. I'm going to go and paint the rest of these really quickly. Oh, whoops, that's my white wedge. If you don't want to do the white dots, that's totally fine. Just make sure you do a real light coat with the dabbing motion so that you don't fill those dots totally in, and they'll still have definition and character on your sign. One more. And at this point, I'm done with everything that I'm gonna do yellow, except for my streaks on my door hanger, on my backer. So I'm gonna go ahead and just squirt out the rest of this paint. And what I wanna do is, your paintbrush probably still has pink in it. Mine doesn't, but if it has pink in it, no big deal. That might be even better, because it's going to leave behind some streaks, some pink streaks along inside of the yellow, which will have a nice effect. So what you want to do is take your large paintbrush, dip it into your yellow paint. Don't swipe, just dab it, because you don't want glops of paint on here. So you can see I don't really have like a line of paint on my paintbrush like I would normally do, and then I want to dab off. I just want to see dots, okay? And then I'm going to come onto my board and I'm just going to swipe. Okay, no rhyme or reason, just wherever you feel like I could use it. If it makes a thick line, that's fine, just swipe it the other way. If you're like, oh my gosh, too much, get a wet rag, a baby wipe, something, and just touch it up. This is chalk paint, so it's gonna spread and come off really easy. And then remember that a lot of your sign is going to be covered by the elements that we, you know, the wording and the picture and everything. So these yellow streaks are just for character and completely optional. And I'm sorry, that's not a great view of what I've done here, but do a little bit around this edge here. Okay. See if I can zoom out a little bit on here. Okay, so that's what I've done, and once I put it together, if I want to add anything to it, certainly I can. Okay, moving on to your green. Squirt a little bit onto your workspace, and green is super fast because it's just going to be your leaves. So remember to dip into your paint, dab off the extra, and same thing goes with the green leaves. There's not, the flower is going to cover up that middle part right there. So just paint it, and then, you know, paint that top half green. And then we're going to stick our flowers on top. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead real quick and try to get a close-up of doing these dots. So for the larger one, you can kind of move around in a circle. for the real small dots, just don't dab down all the way. Do them last when you have less paint on your brush. And just do a real light tap. Okay. All right, last one. Okay. All right, moving on to the blue. So my lettering, all my lettering is going to be blue. I'm going to set these aside so I don't mess up those white dots. All right, so remember what I said earlier, the lettering, you always want to use that dab, dab, dab because it's thin. You don't want to get gloppy paint on your edges because you're going to end up with not a crisp, clean line. So just make sure you dab into your paint and then dab off. Make sure you don't have a lot of excess. And then use that fast, even pressure on your piece in order to get those even edges. almost done here. Okay, so one thing that I want to mention, particularly on a kind of a larger piece like this, that it's not super frail, definitely not like the Hello Spring one from a few months ago, but when you peel off the backer, you want to make sure that you peel the backer from the piece, the wood, not the wood from the backer, if that makes sense. So once you get it started, just instead of trying to tear away bending the wood, just keep the wood nice and steady and peel your backer up, okay? And that's going to make sure that you don't have any cracks or you don't torque the piece too much. Okay, so that's done. Don't forget to paint your little heart for the dot and the eye. And paint our sweet. And then we'll assemble it all together and be good to go. There is a separate video on doing your bow, and then you receive some instructions on doing your bow. So depending on how long the video is, we may do it, we may not. But if we don't do it in this video, there is, like I said, a separate video showing how to put your bows together and attach them to your piece. Okay, so now let's go ahead and add our sweet letters to our banner. So for these, you just peel this up. Just find a corner and peel it up. If you have a push pin or something out, you can use that to kind of get it started. Makes it a little bit easier. And again, just line those up with the score lines and press. This is the adhesive that's on these is very, very sticky. So kind of be mindful of that before you stick it and press it down. Make sure that it's lined up the way that you'd like it to be, because it is not fun to try to get it off. Once it's on, it's on. Okay. Okay, there's our banner. Stick that up there for now. Let's do our flowers real quick. we go. There is a, whoop, that's on it. There is a specific orientation for the flower. So just kind of spin it around till you've got it down. There we go. That's not right here. Okay, there's one. 2. 3. Whoop, 4. Okay. Let me move all this out of the way. Here is the backer. And so the first thing you want to do is line up the banner up at the top, just those 2 flat edges. Where they meet the edges of your backer is where that's going to go. So kind of get a feel for where that is before you start to take off your adhesive. Flip that over and just peel this up. Okay. And again, I'm going to kind of hold it up this way and bring my fingers down the edges until it's kind of lined up. And then set it down. Okay, press that into place. And now I'm going to line up the rest of my pieces based on where that top banner went. And then I'll start to stick them. So your picture is going to go in the center down here. And again, we have elevated it so it's got that piece on the back. I'm going to even this, flatten this out. Okay, so just make sure your twine is flat, not twisted over on top of each other. And then peel this off. Okay. And set that, you kind of want to center it under the holes, and just like that. You can tilt it to an angle if you'd like. press that down. Okay, and then you're just going to kind of place your lemons where you might want them. Okay, just like so. I'm happy with that. All of these sweet details just make this so cute. I'm not sure if my white dots are dry yet. It doesn't look like they quite are, so I'm trying to be careful not to smudge that. Okay, I got that up. I think I'm going to do it this way so it's not quite so matchy-matchy with that side. I'm glad I didn't push that down really hard. Okay, last one. Do it. Okay, all right, I'm happy with that. I'm going to mash those down and do my summertime. Okay, and again, like I said before, just make sure that you're pulling the paper from the backer, not trying to bend the wood away from the backer. Just hold your wood steady and peel the paper. Moving down as you peel. And holding it steady underneath where you're peeling. Okay. And I left my little heart there, so I kind of had a reference point for where I wanted this to go. That's great. Stick my heart on. Okay, and then if you want to stick around while we do the bow, certainly you can. So for our bows, I like to say we give you lots of options as far as what you want to include with it. You could just do this with, if you didn't want to use any of these other colors, you could just do this with, oh, sorry, you can't see, with this wrapped around, and that would be super cute. I'm going to use all of them so you can see kind of what that looks like. So I'm going to stagger it with obviously the largest piece on the back, then the next largest, and I want this cute pink detail on the top so that it doesn't get covered up. And there's two ways that you can do this. You can stagger these underneath it, and then take and wrap your yellow. line that up, wrap this, or tie this. And as you tie it, you can pinch the back of this to keep the burlap from folding onto it. And you gotta kind of play with it for a little bit, but you'll get there. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this, and then I will adjust. Okay, so I put that into a bow, and then I'm gonna peel this burlap back out. Okay, and then just kind of play with it until it is how you want it to be. You can go for just a sort of structured look with all of your pieces right on top of each other. You can kind of twist them. They do have wires, so you are able to position them. This is why I did a separate video, because I could sit here and fiddle with ribbon to get it perfect for a really long time. Okay, so I like the way that looks. So I'm going to take my other twine and you double it over. I think what y'all received is already tied, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So one end is tied. You're just going to loop your twine through the back. Okay. Take your two ends and push them through the back and tie it. Tighten that and then pull this to the front. Fix your bow down how you like it, and you're done.